Hello and welcome to BonkTable. I'm Mass and this is another Conquest battle report. Today I'm playing 100 Kingdoms into Dweghom. I am playing a list that Hanna used to play and she told me kind of why she stopped, and I might get into that a little bit after playing it myself and kind of realizing why. And I'm going to be playing, it's a Goblin list. People love Goblin. It's a Goblin list with Ashen Dawn, and it has 2x5 longbows, so 2 regiments of 5 longbows in it, what I thought was really interesting. And I'm playing into another Magma Wizard from Dweg, and Magma is actually pretty good. My opponent is a gentleman who I played War Machine with for like many years. If you watch some of the live games, you would see him play Dweg against me. And so he knows how to like bounce spells around and really uses the advantage of turning terrain into erupting and then bouncing pyroclasts and stuff like that off of the terrain. So with that, let's get into the lists. So the list is called Goblin of Dawn. It's in Relentless Drills, and this is basically meaningless because I have no melee infantry. And we got an Imperial Officer who is the Warlord with that rapid deployment. So that gives you Vanguard, so all the infantry models in the list will gain additional march, like a free additional march when they activate for the first turn. So when they come onto the table, you're just going to get a free additional march, and then you can do your regular actions of like double marching, so it just gets you up the table really fast. Then in his warband, he's got 3 units of Merc Crossbows. That's it. With a unit of Imperial Ranger Corps. He's going to be sitting with the Imperial Ranger Corps. He's going to give them that fire first, aim later, and on your feet. So that's double time and fire in advance. So you can do the scoot and shoot. I don't know if I should explain it again for the 50 billionth time, but if you haven't watched any other videos, the scoot and shoot is basically you activate the regiment that the Imperial officer's in. That regiment moves, shoots, and because they shot for their second action, they trigger fire first, aim later, or fire in advance. So they get to make another move, but now they've made 2 marches in that same activation, so now they get to trigger double time. It allows you to make a third move. And with the Imperial Ranger Corps fluid formation, you can like spin the unit around 180, you can like run backwards and shoot out of your butt, you could spin 180 again and then like move forward and shoot, and then like just kind of like back up. You can do a lot with it, and you get some really funny like positioning and maneuverability out of that combo, what I really do like. Next, we got a Mounted Noble Lord, who is a Weapon Master. That's it. That's all he's doing. He's on a unit of Mounted Squires. They are not veterans or anything, they just have a standard bearer. There's only 3 of them. They're basically just running around either killing objectives or trying to go for easy things they can kill. Then I have another unit of Merc Crossbows and 2x5 longbows. So there's the first one over here and the second one over there. So once you hit about like 5 stands of longbows, you actually start getting enough dice where you can start hurting things and actually doing like quite a bit of damage. Like when you take aim and shoot, I've been finding a lot of the time that my dice rolls were either going to be like super hot and I was going to get like 10 out of my 13 attacks, or like super cold where I was getting like 2 out of my 10 attacks, and I was like, hey. So it was kind of like, but once you get to about 5 stands, you kind of get like a weight of dice thing where you just throw numbers at it and you can kind of start killing off stuff. So that was really nice. Am I coming around on longbows? A little, but I can kind of talk about this, I guess. One of my issues with 100 Kingdoms shooting is that majority of the time you're volley 2 and you're barrage 3. And if you want to have a really good shooting unit, you kind of have to have your volley and barrage stat hit 7. So right now 100 Kingdoms really sits around 5. The only exception is the Imperial Ranger Corps, who are 3 and 3, so that's a 6, and the Hunter Cadre when you veterans them, so they're also 3, 3, and 6. Being like range 18 and 24 is really good, but you know, people still can just like run into you, and if you can't kill them off fast enough, they'll eventually get to you, and it's just you know, stuff's dying. But also like you're 105 points, so you're cheap enough. I think it's more like I'm kind of tired of seeing barrage 3, and I'd like to see barrage 4 on some of the more restricted stuff. Like if longbows had barrage 4 and were up more points, I'd be like, yeah, sweet. because there's other things in the game that are Barrage 4 would have the same volley stat and just get more work done because they're just given more dice. That's really it. That's kind of what I'm coming around to with the range stuff. Like, I kind of want to cut, like, not this isn't even my list, but when I'm building lists, I don't really look at longbows that much, and when I do, it's kind of like, oh, you know what, I'll throw in some longbows, this will be fun. And I'm just like, what if I just brought more Merc Crossbow? Like, that's really it. Just bring more Merc Crossbow. And Imperial Ranger Corps, them compared to Merc Crossbows, they're 15 extra points, they're 2 inches shorter, they don't have armor piercing, they're a bit quicker, they have evasion 1 instead of defense 1, but evasion 1, defense 1, it doesn't really matter. Like, evasion 1's just there to, like, maybe a guy will live or not. Like, when you get to kind of evasion 2 or higher, you're kind of like, oh yeah, stuff will start living. But, like, with evasion 1, you're kind of just expecting things to die still. Them being base volley 3 is kind of nice, but missing out on that armor pierce just because we have such a lack of shots, like, we can't just weight a dice a problem down, it really, like, hurts. And so I kind of don't want to run Imperial Ranger Corps anymore. That's just, the Merc Crossbow is the, like, the everyman's shooting regiment for 100 Kingdoms, and I kind of don't want to dip into longbows or take Imperial Ranger Corps much anymore. I might as well take more Merc Crossbows, and if I really want something, go into Hunter Cadre. I'm thinking now. I'm thinking about lists. But that's kind of like my shooting rant, I guess, about 100 Kingdoms shooting, is that I find it really too similar, and so you kind of go for the thing that does the most for the cheapest, and it's really the Merc Crossbow. Like Militia Bowman, it's like, but what about the Militia Bowman? It's a speed bump, it's a pinner. You don't shoot with them. They're the cheapest mainstay in the world because they're terrible. You don't expect to do a ton of work out of them. Like, what has Clash 1 in this game? That's is there anything with Clash 1? Oh, Merc Crossbows have Clash 1. Never mind, I'm an idiot. What is a shooting unit with Volley 1 besides the Militia Bowman? There we go. Maybe I'll ask that and someone can tell me in the comments, because I don't know. I feel like a lot of things that are supposed to do work in their field, like Merc Crossbows, Men-at-Arms, all those guys, they're usually like Clash 2, you know, so they can do some work. Maybe Force-Grown Drones are Clash 1. Oh god. I hope not. I'm not gonna look, but if someone wants to tell me in the comments if they are, go right ahead. I don't know where I was going anymore. I was really just talking about different shooting regiments, because I'm finding just take more Merc Crossbows as a 100 Kingdoms player is kind of the play. It's just better. And finally, we got the Pirate Commander, who's my second Warlord for the first Blessing. He's got Old Fame's Roar for that +1 Clash and Terrifying 1 on the charge. He's in a unit of Order of Crimson Towers. There's 4 stands with a Standard Bearer. So because it's Terrifying 1 from Olafhane's Roar, it doesn't go to Terrifying 2 for the Order of Crimson Towers, because it's not Terrifying +1 anymore. So it's just Terrifying. And it kind of sucks, but it's fine, whatever. And then I got 3 Order of the Ashen Dawn with a Standard Bearer. And that's kind of the list. So it's a lot of just set up and shoot. Have the Mounted Squires and Mounted Noble Lord run around, kind of grab objectives, kind of grab easy stuff that you can kill. You set up kill zones with the 4 units of Merc Crossbows and the Imperial Ranger Corps, and then you have the longbows shooting, so it's a lot of shots. And then if there's a side what's kind of getting beaten on and weakened, you just drop the Order of Crimson Towers and Order of Ashen Dawn to reinforce and smash your way through. That's how I kind of played the list and how I believe it's played. This list doesn't really do well into kill point scenarios, but because we're playing the new tournament pack, there isn't very many kill point scenarios. However, I did get one of those 2 kill point scenarios for this matchup, so I did lose a bunch of like Merc Crossbows to Pyroclast from the Magma Wizard, so that was super fun. they will just light a guy up. It's pretty good. And yeah, I was told it does better on scenarios where you have 2 back-end scoring objectives. What is true, and I can totally see why, because you get your scoring engine going, and you can set up a kill zone if your opponent ever wants to come closer to you, and then you can kind of just like sneak something in to like score those middle objectives. So like Divide and Conquer would be a good example. But I don't know, it's not bad. I do feel the missed power in this list of a second unit of Order Ashen Dawn. And as I've been kind of playing recently and like looking at what my opponents are playing and seeing what other people are playing, I don't want to leave the home without 2 units of Order of Ashen Dawn anymore. They just shore up a major weakness in the durability department of 100 Kingdoms. Because what is in here that isn't 4 wounds? Crimson Towers is 4 wounds. Merc Crossbows 4 wounds. Longbows are 4 wounds. Mounted Squires 4 wounds. Imperial Ranger Corps 4 wounds. Like 100 Kingdoms very much has like, I want to say the 2-3 for your volley or clash, and then 4 wounds, resolve 2-3. Like it's not, or then like defense 2-3. Like it's not a great stat line, and having 4 wounds across the board, it's kind of just like, stuff dies. You bleed stands a little easier than a lot of other factions that are rolling with 5 wounds. It gets a little samey. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just like, oh, it's getting too repetitive. Anyway, here's my rules. Pause the video at any time. And yeah. Alright, and with that, let's go look at my opponent's Magma Wizard list. My opponent named his list Idea for December 2 M1SR1. What that means, I will not know. I think December 2nd is because we plan to go to Calgary on December 2nd for a tournament, and I hope that's going to be a bunch of fun. I think this is what he's planning to play. So, with that, if you're in Calgary and you're watching this, this is what you get to look forward to. So, he's got a Tempered Sorcerer who's the Warlord for the double cast and the Elemental Potency token generation. He's got the Cathodic Flame, so you can re-roll your failed morale rolls for spells, School of Magma, Focus, and Arcane 1 through 3. So I did ask him about Arcane 1 through 3 and Focus with the Magma School, and he's like, I don't want to fail a roll, so I'm securing that I can pass the roll. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I get it there. Like, you know, he's rolling a bunch of dice, he gets to re-roll 2 of them, and he gets to auto pass a success, and he only needs 2 successes, so it's very high chance that he never fails a dice roll. And he actually at one point did only roll 1 success, and he used Arcane 3 and just got another one and got the Hindering Terrain spell off, so he could then Pyroclast out of it. So it does work, and it does come up. This guy is in a unit of Fireforged, Barrage 4, Volley 2, Range 14, AP 2. Still hate him. Defense through the shield going up to 4. It's just a really hard nut to crack. They have a standard bearer. Oh my god, these guys, they're still really tough to kill, especially with their 5 wounds and resolve 4. Like, it's a lot of work to try and like clink them off. And then with the elemental potency tokens, they can just be like, oh, I just reduce like 5 hits or whatever. Because this guy's generating, he has 1 Tempered Sorcerer with double cast, so it's 2, he has another Tempered Sorcerer for 3, and then he's got a Steel Shaper for 4. So he's generating 4 tokens a turn. It's really good, and he can easily just like drop Erupting Terrain onto stuff just to generate tokens if there's nothing he can shoot, so that's also really good. So you're never kind of like behind on token generation than if you were playing like Fire and you got on the board first turn and there was like nothing around, and you kind of like, you knew stuff would be around further on in the game, but right off the bat there isn't, so you just kind of like run up the table. So now you just run up the table and you start just turning terrain on fire and you call it a day. Next Tempered Sorcerer, he's in Magma School with a Hellbringer Sorcerer, so he gets to ride the Hellbringer Drake. He has a unit of Hold Warriors who have Aura of Death 2 and a Stand Bearer, and they get the Herald of Magma, so if they're standing in a piece of terrain, that terrain is now erupting, and he can cast spells out of it. And my opponent does plan to do that, and it's super annoying. Then he has a Tempered Steel Shaper. Really, this guy gives out Hardened 1 and generates tokens. Really good, really solid, and the next thing he brings is 5 Stands of Steel Forged. Because, why not? With the change to Steel Forged going down to Defense 4, it's it helps a ton. Because if you hit them with AP1 now, they're defense 3, and you can kind of get some like damage in there. If you hit them with AP2, they're now down to defense 2, and you can get some real damage in there. At defense 5, and then like a Stempered Seal Shaper just hanging out behind them, giving them hardened 1, it was just insane to kill them. And like playing in them now while they're defense 4, like I saw opportunities where I could actually get damage in and do work and actually kill them off. And you'll see it in this game, I do kill them off, but they are still a very effective anvil. Then he's got a unit of Hold Warriors. They have no magma, but they're just there to cart around the Steel Shaper. Lastly in his list, he has a Hold Ray, who is tactical 1 through 3. And until we have to, it gives Harden +1. I believe it's Harden +1 when you're on a zone with the unit. Like, so you have to have half or more of your guys on the zone. And if you do, you get Harden +1. And on a unit of Hold Thanes, who are already base Harden 1, you're going to Harden 2. And there's 6 of these motherfuckers. And they're Heralds of Magma, so once again, they're going to start turning terrain into... they're basically Arc Nodes. You can pop spells off of them for the Magma Wizards. So really good. I do like my opponent's list where he's put in Heralds of Magma into the different regiments so that they can convert that terrain into erupting, so the wizards can start popping spells off all over the table. Like my opponent brings on the Hellbringer Drake Wizard, and he has the wizard, like the Hellbringer Drake, walk onto the table, the wizard activates, and then shoots a spell off across the table on the other side into a unit of Merc Crossbows and like kills them, and I'm like, yay, this is great. I'm like, yeah, erupting, awesome. So overall, I really like the list. Last thing I want to say about tactical 1 through 3. 3 gives them flank. The Thanes are his only heavy, and I kind of asked him about this, and he's like, usually I have something on turn 3, like he has a lot of mediums, so he has no lights and he has a lot of mediums. So he's like, I bring one thing on turn 2, and then I have to roll a bunch of 2 downs. Turn 3, I bring another thing on from the mediums, because I'm only rolling 2 downs, and then I also automatically bring on my 1 heavy, and then I roll 4 downs from the rest of my turn 2. So by turn 3, a majority of my list has showed up on the table, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But would I have this tac 3 on the heavy? Probably not, but I see why he went with it and what his explanation was. So I'm just going to slow roll his rules. Pause the video at any time if you want to check anything out. The elemental tokens are still real mean. I hate them, and he uses them really well in this game to stop me from killing a ton of his stuff. Okay, and with that, let's go look at the scenario. So we are playing head-to-head. The only change for this scenario from the additional scenarios to the tournament pack is that this zone went from 12 to 9. And it's not a huge change, but I still like it just because it allows the infantry to sit on either end of the zone and then roll a 4 up to like, well, would it be a 4 up? No, it'd be like a 4 with a reroll if you have a banner to get into each other. So it's like a 75% chance. But it's still pretty good, so you can actually get fights going on in the zone. For other stuff on this table, you got your friendly zone, and your opponent's zone. You can't score it, but you can sure contest it. And then you get 3 victory points for controlling this Zine zone that I'm just putting a line through. You get 4 victory points for controlling your opponent's zone. And you gain 2 victory points for killing the enemy warlord, 2 for killing every enemy character, and 2 for killing every enemy regiment. So I have cheap-ass Merc Crossbows who are going to die and feed my opponent. Does this have... Players gain 2 they've slain the enemy warlord this round. Does this not have the claws? Oh my god, I don't believe this scenario doesn't have the clause where if you kill the warlord twice, it only counts as 1. Yeah, no, I'm just looking it over. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Huh. I don't know what to say about that. Well, good thing I checked. Well, I didn't check. Good thing you never killed my second warlord, basically, or else the game might have been different. Maybe Parabellum should correct that and not have this one in there. Well, why not have this one in there, you know, like, just change that the Warlord can only be scored once per game. Like, 100k players don't like the double Warlord scoring, because it's just like, I would like to take my 2 Warlords because I have that army rule. But now I'm being punished from it because my opponent, instead of gaining 2 points, can gain 4. And it's like, yay. Overall, what I gotta say about the scenario, it's fine. I like it. You have... I'll use purple. Like, you have a lot of dead space. You can throw terrain in a lot of places. You can really pick your battles here of, are you going to push to your opponent's zone? Or are you going to push and secure this middle and then, like, defend this? And just kind of hold on to yours? Are you going to push, control your opponent's zone, and then maybe, like, eventually get into theirs after you control that side? Like, you can kind of do a bunch with there. I kind of like the push and pull of it, and you really got to pick, do you want to go for the closer 9-inch zone for less points? Or do you want to go for the further 6-inch zone for 4 points? And you kind of have to make a choice, because at some point in the game, you're kind of going to break through, or you're going to get pushed back, and you got to figure out, is it worth it, which side I'm pushing on? So let's go look at our table, and we'll then, you know, get into the actual game itself. Here's the table, and we got our 9-inch zone right there, and our opponent zone, and my zone right here. We have 3 size 3 obstructions right down the middle of the board. So this board is literally split in half. What's wonderful. Then we got 2 elevation hills right onto the edge of the zones. So I think the Vanguard was like, you're going to deploy a unit. I'll use this color. You're going to deploy a unit and kind of get onto that hill, and then, like, you can shoot outward into whatever else, or like over people or whatever. You just do shit like that. And lastly, we have a size 2 obstructing forest right there, so you can't see through it, and you are half shots when you're in it. So we kind of set up to benefit from this forest. Like, at one point I put a regiment, just kind of all the stands touching into the forest, but also on the zone to score it. My opponent does the same thing. Just try another guy to kind of like maximize the forest. Wow, that is a terrible rectangle. And things I gotta say about this table, it's very wide open for shooting, what benefits my list a lot. Like, I basically kind of sit about here the entire game, well, majority of the game, and just kind of shoot outward towards my opponent, because this side is very open, and it's just like very open to shooting. This is very open to shooting, and this is very open to shooting, and if I can kind of work around that forest, I'm pretty much fine. What really becomes the hard part, though, is once you lock down one of these 2 sides here, you then gotta somehow get over to either get into your opponent's objective or defend yours. And if your opponent does it on this way, you know, then they're... let's use blue. Yeah, and if the opponent takes it, let's say they take this side, you know, they're kind of coming in like that. So it does this split, and so we very much had to pick a side and figure out what we wanted to commit to that side to secure it and lock it down. So with that, let's get to turn 1. Here's turn 1. My opponent has no lights, and I have a lot of lights. So I auto bring on my Mounted Noble Lord and the Mounted Squires. I'm running up the table just so I can get into that zone right off the bat, and also benefit from the terrain, because I know I'm going to get shot at some point. I then just run my 4 regiments. I'm just going to split them right there. And just up the table. I don't really plan to take my opponent's objective over here, but I do want to put enough to just deter them and just kind of like set up a kill zone and just kind of shoot outward like that. I have this Merc crossbow here. Yeah, I'll just circle you. Kind of that way, just hoping like maybe at some point they can move up and like maybe sneak some shooting in this way if they can see it around that building. And the rest of it's kind of just set up to just generate a kill zone. And yeah, that's really my turn 1. Nothing else is happening. Let's go look at turn 2. Here's turn 2. I get my 2 longbows, 2 longbows, and my Imperial Officer and his Imperial Ranger Corps right there. My opponent gets his Steel Shaper and his Hold Warriors. He just runs the Hold Warriors up. Then also he has his Steel Forge. He runs the Steel Forge up, and then he gives the Steel Forge like Harden. I have this unit of Merc Crossbows get within 18 and they shoot the Steel Forge. I get this unit of Merc Crossbows 18, shoot the Steel Forge. These Merc Crossbows right here, I believe just move up 5, and I kind of do a little bit of pre-measuring from my opponent's side. You can kind of see it right, circle in red, like that measuring stick, like how far, if he deployed his Magma Wizard, how far they could go to shoot. The thing is, I forget that it's a Magma Wizard, and I think it's a Fire Wizard, because my opponent keeps calling it a Fire Wizard. I'm like, no, it's a Magma Wizard, there is a difference. And so I measure the threat range of a Fire Wizard, I don't measure the threat range of a Magma Wizard, because the Magma Wizard will drop a 6-inch diameter piece of terrain, 10 inches for the center point of this 6-inch diameter, 10 inches away from the Tempered Sorcerer. So, Tempered Sorcerer is the unit of Hold Warriors. Hold Warriors have a banner. They run up 11. The Tempered Sorcerer drops a piece of terrain where the very tip edge is 13 inches away from him, because it's 6-inch diameter, 13 inches. So we basically just took a 13 stick, put the zone at the very top of it, and just slapped it down and said, there you go. Then he's going to Pyroclast 5 inches out of that 13, so he's going to be threatening 18 inches. Yay! What I believe just clips each of those unit of Merc Crossbows for next turn. And that really sucks, because I was measuring, I want to say 11 plus 16? Yeah, I was measuring 11 plus 16 instead of 11 plus 18. So I put myself about half an inch out from 11 plus 16, where those Merc Crossbows are, while I should have put myself half an inch out from 11 plus 18. Well, would have pushed them back a bit, but then I wouldn't have lost these guys, because I was getting confused. My opponent's, it's a Fire Wizard, I'm like, no, it's a Magma Wizard, because there's a huge difference of what this thing can output in threat just by bouncing the spells. And am I hard on my opponent for that? No. It's, I say shit like that all the time, where it's like, Anathantoys, Anathantois, whatever the stupid fucking immortal unit is. But it's kind of like, this guy, like, figuring out what the threat range is of something is kind of something maybe I should have looked at a little bit more, because I used the wrong math for the wrong thing than what my opponent actually had. So you're going to see these Merc Crossbows get disintegrated in a bit. However, I do score this zone right here, because I have my Mounted Noble Lord just touching the edge of it, and no one's contesting it, and I'm in the woods, so I can hopefully be safe. Besides that, that's turn 2. Let's go look at turn 3. Here's turn 3. And things that come on for myself are just the Order of Ashen Dawn. I don't get my Crimson Towers. My opponent, however, brings on his big block of Thanes, his Tempered Sorcerer on a Hellbringer Drake, and his Tempered Sorcerer in a unit of Fireforge. I'm like, yay, this is great. So, things that go first. I have my Longbows activate here. They unload a bunch of shots into the Steel Forge that were back over here. That's not an actual measurement. They were a little further up more. Go up to here. So they were just within 24 of the Steel Forge. I just take aim. They're size 2. I'm size 1. I can see over them. And I shoot over the Merc Crossbows into the Steel Forge. Do a bunch of damage. I think he loses the stand. Sweet. My opponent, what does he do? I think he inspects the Steel Shaper, and he puts Harden on the Steel Forge, activating unit of Merc Crossbows. I shoot into the Steel Forge because we're 18 inches away. Do a couple more points of damage. He runs up his Hold Warriors with the Tempered Sorcerer. I'm like, okay, sweet. I have these Merc Crossbows go. They take aim and shoot at those Fireforge, do a bunch of damage. Cool. Then my opponent activates, I believe, his Steel Shaper. No, not a Steel Shaper. It's his Steel Forge. He marches up 6. He declares a charge onto my Mounted Squires. And he needs like a 2 or a 3, and he has no reroll, and he rolls a 1, and he only moves up 1 inch. So I'm like, okay, cool. But however, he is on the zone with 1 stand, so I need to wipe out the entire unit because I only have 1 scoring regiment, the Mounted Noble Lord, in that. Well, it's 1 scoring stand in that regiment. What's the Mounted Noble Lord? So I need to somehow kill off the Steel Forge. Okay, let's see what I can do. These Merc crossbows, you know, they shoot into Steel Forge. They kill another stand. Like, they could see it beyond this this forest, so I wasn't getting half shots. But after they killed that stand, now I would be getting half shots if I can still see them. Next thing he goes, he activates his Magma Wizard over here. He creates the erupting terrain right there, and he Pyroclast out of it. He doesn't choose that unit because they already activated. He chooses this unit, and he wipes out a ton of their stands, and I'm like, great, they have like 2 wounds left. Then he runs up his Hellbringer Drake. Why am I using red? Just use you. There. Brings out his Hellbringer Drake. And I'm like, alright, Merc Crossbows, just shoot again, because why not? And we eventually kill off 1 stand of the Fire Force. So I'm like, sweet, you know, getting work done. Maybe we'll do something. The Tempered Magma Wizard over on the Hellbringer Drake goes. Long bombs out of erupting terrain into this other unit and gets them down to like 4 wounds. And I'm like, yay, that's super fantastic. I've basically lost both those units. Their output isn't worth it. What can I do with them now? Do I keep shooting? Do I run them up to die? Well, I don't really want to give them points. I'm really not getting anything for it. Like, I might as well just keep shooting. So he's not scoring any points off it, but he is, you know, he's setting up to reduce damage coming into him, and I'm kind of like, not very fun. Longbows over here shoot into these Fireforge, do a bit more damage, but the Fireforge are kind of fine after everything's said and done for shooting. What else happens? His Thanes run up the table. His Hold Warriors with the Tempered Sorcerer back up 5 inches, but he is still within 8 inches of the Steel Forge right here. I'll use orange just to make it look better. He's still within 8, so he can still provide them with the Elemental Potency tokens, so he can reduce damage. What he does do at some point, I think it's when the Longbows might have shot them. No, I think it's when Merc Crossbow shot him or something. But he does use them once he like collects 4 or 5. He'll like dump a bunch and just like reduce damage, and it's still super annoying. My Imperial Ranger Corps just kind of walk up and just kind of set up to shoot, but I probably should have just had them stay back more. I was being a little too aggressive because I was hoping like next turn I could get shots into the Fireforge and wipe them out. However, my opponent next turn is totally just going to dump another one of these hindering terrain things and start Pyroclasting out of it, so that'll be super fun. And lastly, my Ashen Dawn run up the table here because I need to start killing off one of these wizards. I didn't really want to fight the block of Thanes because I don't think I have enough that can kill it. But after having my Mounted Squires charge into the Steel Forge and kill off 2 stands, and one of the stands is down to 1 life, so that is 13 health left, I think I should be able to kill off the Steel Forge, kill off the Drake, and kill off the Tempered Steel Shaper and win this right side. And then I can kind of figure out if I want to swing around and go for the left side. And once I do that, I might be able to like harvest the left side a bit. But right now the left side is totally falling while I'm kind of making a bigger impact on the right. But that's turn 3. Let's go look at turn 4. Here's turn 4. I believe I win the roll off. And I have my Longbows on this side go, and I'm like, okay, the Mounted Squires should maybe do something into the Steel Forge, we'll find out. It's okay though, I have 3 range units that can shoot into them, so maybe I'll get something done. And so I'm going to activate the Longbows on the left. They shoot into these Fireforge, and I just roll like crap, and my opponent saves a ton, and I only do like 3 damage, and they're fine. I'm like, yay. My opponent then activates his Steel Forge, kills off the Mounted Squires, it really sucks. Maybe I should activate the Mountain Squires first. I probably should have. I could have waited on the longbows more, but I was kind of getting a little antsy and hoping to like just pelt stuff to death that was more meaningful. Like the wizards need to die and I need to get to the wizards, but he's like, you can see him here. He's moving them back. He's keeping them safe. He's reducing the damage that comes into them and he's just keeping them alive. So I'm like, yay. So Steelforge, you know, do some damage in. Mountain Noble Lord dies fighting, does a little bit of damage, and then it's Merc Crossbows into Steelforge, Longbows into Steelforge. Yeah, that's it. I end up killing them all down. I think the last guy has like 4 or 5 wounds left, and he's broken, so he's not controlling that zone. And one of my last cards is just running the Order of Crimson Towers up the table because they can just go and kill the Steelforge, or, you know, the Steelforge can be shot to death, and then I can get those guys in the zone to score, and then kind of work out killing the Hold Warriors who've ran up the table to fill in the spot where the Steelforge are going to no longer be, but also keeping the, what is it here? This Tempered Sorcerer safe, and keeping him away, well, not keeping him away, but putting pressure elsewhere that I need to go deal with to keep him safer. But you can kind of see that I've already shot off a stand, and that's why he's kind of moving back more and more, because he wants to be safe, and that's kind of what his plan is. Merc Crossbows on the right here shoot into the Hellbringer Drake. Hellbringer Drake shoots back into the Merc Crossbows. And Order of the Ashen Dawn make a march. And then I need like a 4 with a reroll, and I roll like a 2, and I just move up 2. And it's like, okay, cool. Fail my roll, that's fine. I'm still within charge range of this thing. And if he wants to move it away, that's also fine, because I'll just chase it down. And then if I'm chasing it down, I'll just swing into the side and I'll just kind of hit these Hold Warriors. I'll hit these Steelforge. Like there's, you know, there's more stuff over here I can kill and wipe out. So I'm still kind of winning and really putting a lot of work into the side. My opponent, however, on the left, kills off both units of Merc Crossbows. You know, drops another Hindering Terrain. Pyroclast out of it, kills. Pyroclast out of it, kills a bunch of other stuff. Fireforge, I think they shoot a guy over here. They shoot, yeah, that one. And then this Pyroclast. Ooh. Yeah, blue. This Pyroclast kills that, and then he, you know, he just does some damage into this. Peel Ranger Cord, they're down to 2 life. I just run away. Like, I probably should have just held them back more. Like, I have nothing on this left side that can deal with Thanes. I have nothing that can really set up to kill Thanes. Like, I could probably try and get an Order of Crimson Tower, Order of Ashen Dawn, but they're literally on the other side of the table from each other, so they're probably never going to meet this game. So at this point, I've really just said to myself, Longbows, do as much damage as you can over the course of the game into these Fireforge to hopefully kill them all. I'm giving up the left side. If I can secure the right side, I might be able to pull a win out of my ass if I somehow get to my opponent's zone back here. And now that's kind of what I'm looking for. So my long-term game plan at this point, because this is where I kind of look at it, where I'm like, I'm going to lose the game. My opponent is killing too much stuff too quickly. I'm not killing his stuff fast enough. I'm not controlling the zones fast enough. I need to figure out my avenue to win. And I'm looking at it, and I can probably take the right side. I can probably get something that can score onto that zone, either it being Ashen Dawn or Crimson Towers. So I mean by that zone is the 9-incher. And then I can probably get one of the cav units to run through this gap into this zone. And by that point, hopefully, it's just the Tempered Steel... Tempered Steel Shaper should be dead if I'm going to kill everything on the right side. It's going to be just the Hold Thanes and the Hold Ray on... I'll just circle my zone. On my zone, scoring 4 points. I'm scoring 7. His Hold List is dead. Ashen Dawn, Crimson Towers, Longbows are all still alive. Well, one unit of Longbows. I can probably like sneak out a win that way. And that's kind of where I figure out this plan is about this turn. What turn is this? This will be turn 4. because a lot of this is not going well for me, and I kind of need to scrape it back. So let's go to turn 5 and see how well scraping it back is going to start looking. So here is turn 5, and let's go talk about what happens. I believe I win the roll-off, and I have these longbows take aim and shoot into the steel forge where it used to sit here, and I don't roll very well, and so I do a bit of damage, but not enough to kill it. So I'm like, okay, well, I need more damage to kill it. Then my, what is it? My opponent, what does he do? Yeah, no, he totally has the wizard. He has the Fireforge walk up. They shoot into the longbows. I draw my next longbow card. I shoot into these Fireforge, do a bit of damage. My opponent drops his zone somewhere. I think we threw it away at this point, but it was basically dropped right here. Pyroclast out, kills off a ton of the longbows. Hold Ray and hold Thanes, you know, just march charge and kill off the longbows. I think I do like a point of damage back. Or not the longbows, the Imperial Ranger Corps. So these guys are all dead. My opponent scores like 6 points off of that. Character, Regiment, and Warlord really sucks. And at this point, I've kind of like, all right, the left side is lost. Let's go work on the right side. This unit of Merc Crossbows shoots into the Steel Forge. He's like down to basically no life. He's still broken, so he needs to rally, and then he marches like up to here because he's like, oh, I'll just get in the way and then like get the hold warriors in there. So he marches there. Crimson Towers at some point charge him, kill him off. He then runs up his hold warriors. He gets 2 hold warriors in the zone. I get 2 Crimson Towers in the zone, so now we're contesting. Merc Crossbows here, I believe, just shoot in, but they don't really shoot that much. I think they do a point of damage or 2. Yeah, before the, Hellbringer Drake could get some damage in and activate, order Crimson Tower kind of right off the bat. Just charge into it. I'll just draw it. Perfect. They just do a bunch of damage on the charge, do a clash, kill it. At this point, my opponent is realizing that the right side is probably lost. He's won the left, so to keep his Steel Shaper safe and to deny me points and to keep generating tokens, he's starting to run his Steel Shaper this way. And I'm kind of looking at it, I'm like, I kind of need to kill that to get points, but I also want to go I also want to go there anyway, so let's keep kind of getting some work done. So with that, no one scores any points. I'm starting to get some points from killing his stuff, and we're gonna kind of keep playing it like this, where we're just trying to keep as much of our stuff alive as possible and do as much damage and, you know, score the zones. So let's go to turn... What was that? 6 now? Let's go. I think it's 6. Let's go to turn 6. Here's turn 6. First thing I do is I activate the Order of Crimson Towers, charge and kill the hold warriors who are right here. I just do it in the charge, and then I just reform because now I'm looking to head this way. My opponent has these hold warriors just start running away. They just reform and run. Merc Crossbows here shot him in the side. They can kind of sneak by the edge of that building and see their butts, so I just shoot him in the back. Order of Ashen Dawn just reform and start marching this way. These Merc Crossbows just reform and start marching this way. Longbows, what did you do? I think the longbows took aim, and you started to pelt someone. Oh, the longbows took aim and started to shoot into these Fireforge. And these Fireforge just, you know, used a bunch of tickets and just got rid of a bunch of shots. And I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be super fun. As you can see here, he dropped his hazardous terrain, pyroclast, and killed off all the longbows who were in the zone. And his hold ray and Thanes just reformed and marched up. And they're going to be in the zone next turn. I score 3 points. And I know at this point my opponent is still scoring more than me, just through the sheer amount of killing, but I'm starting to kind of push him back in a way so that I can actually maybe secure enough zones to win and maybe kill off his Fireforge with just pure shooting, because they only have 10 health left. Like, I should be able to kill 10 wounds of stuff, a defense 4 with a bunch of Merc Crossbows and a bunch of longbows, right? Like, I should be able to do that, right? I should be able to roll some dice, right? Wrong. Can't roll for shit, is what I'm finding. However, I have a zone, score those 3 points, started pushing back, like, force him to run away. He's still kind of coming forward to do damage to me, but he might not have a good time. So let's go look at turn 7 and see how that goes. Here's turn 7. These Merc Crossbows, I believe, activated first. Did a bit of damage onto these, Hold Warriors. They now have like 3 or 4 wounds left. They're broken. He's still running. He gives out Harden to these Fireforged over here. Longbows shoot into the Fireforge, and the Wizard drop one of his zones, do a bunch of damage into the Longbows. Longbows are probably going to die. Crimson Towers, they just start running, they're starting that chase into the Hold Warriors. Then it's going to be, looking at the zone here to capture it. Hold Ray and the Thanes, get on the zone, score those points. Order of Ashen Dawn, just shimmy onto the zone, get those points. And these guys just start running up because I'm like, ooh, maybe I can get some damage in and kill off those Fireforge. I really need to either kill off the Fireforge and stop letting him kill my stuff. If I can kill off the Hold Warriors and the Fireforge, I can win this game. So, with that, let's go look at turn 8. Yeah, to be honest, I don't have much to say about this one, just because we're starting to run away from each other. We're still taking pot shots. We're still kind of doing some weird shit to each other. But it's really coming down to, can I control enough zones? Can I kill off the last little stuff that he has bleeding running around? I don't really want to fight his Hold Thanes, because I really had nothing that could fight them the entire game, and be on the same side. And I'm fine with him controlling my zone if I'm also scoring his zone. So now I gotta really look at getting into his zone, because this is all perfectly set up to do it, just by the way he's running. So let's go look at that. Here's turn 8. First thing my opponent does is he activates the Hold Warriors and just books it. I activate the Longbows and... actually, no, I activated the Crimson Towers. And I just book it up as well. Then he activates the Fireforged, and he kind of just moves them here, and he just shoots, and I believe he just kills all the Longbows. I just move up with my Merc Crossbows and just take shots into the Fireforged. Here's the Pyroclast thing. Just... Actually, I think he dropped that with the Wizard and then shot, did that to the Longbows, and then had the Fireforge shoot into these Merc Crossbows. So I then just kind of move my Order of Ashen Dawn here. They're mostly there if the Fireforge keep moving forward. I'm just gonna charge the Ashen Dawn out and kill him, because that is 6 points. Warlord character regiment, and then I can, the next turn just spin around and walk back into the zone to score it. So that's really what that's doing. His whole thing starts spinning. This is still on that teeter-totter, but because I'm finally scoring points, I can probably close it out and win the game. And this is where I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, the Hold Warriors and the Steel Shaper are going to die. If he keeps running away, that's fine, because I'm going to get onto his zone. And he's coming closer to his Ashen Dawn, who are going to easily kill the 4 wounded Fireforge to death. So let's go look at turn 9. Here's turn 9. First things first, order Crimson Towers, charge, kill off the Hold Warriors, get my 4 points, get on the zone, reform to look at these guys, because maybe I want to march charge off the zone and kill those things. My opponent drops Pyroclast, kills off the weaker unit of Merc Crossbows, and I have... what does he do? Yeah, he does that. And then I have my... I think it was Order of Ashen Dawn go. Well, I just look at it and I'm kind of like, well... sorry. I think at this point I look at the score, and I'm like, what score you're at? And he's like, oh, I'm at this. And I'm like, oh, I'm at that. And I kind of look at it. And I'm like, I'm gaining 7 points a turn. He's gaining 4 points a turn. He's going to gain 8 to my 14. I'm going to beat him up by like 2 points. I'm like, okay. And I move my Merc Crossbows back 5 inches. I just back him up. And he does the same with his Fireforge. And ooh, that's a terrible arrow. He just goes back. Because he doesn't want to come close to the Order of Ashen Dawn, because they'll easily kill him. But he's trying to see if he can like bounce shots to the Merc Crossbows. He can't. He's kind of outside of 5 here. And at this point we call the game, because if he comes forward with the Fireforge, he might not kill off the Merc Crossbows. Well, he could. He could totally. Because he would come forward with the Fireforge because he needs to get around this corner so he can see it to get closer and then drop his spell and then kind of kill them all. But at that point, then the Order of Ashen Dawn will just come in and charge him. And so he kind of doesn't go for it. And if I win the roll-off, I just back up another 5 inches and just I'm safe. So it's kind of really in a weird like catch-22. Like, what does he want to do? And even if he stays where he is, like Crimson Towers can just kind of come up behind him and charge him in the butt and kill him. So, yeah, this is basically what we call it. His Temper Sorcerer can't really get to anything else to score out and like either draw the game or like his best bet is a draw if he moves up and kills the Merc Crossbows with his Pyroclast. And that worse, he still loses because he's too far forward and I kill him with Order of Ashen Dawn or Crimson Towers or something, or we just sit in our zones for the next 2 turns. So we kind of just do turn 10 where everyone activates and no one moves, and that's it. So let's go look at the score. Here's the score. My opponent, I believe he has 36, and I have 38. And on turn 10. Yeah. Overall, a really good game. I pulled one out of my butt because I was looking at it and I was like, man, I am losing, and I am losing hard. And my opponent was kind of like riding the wave really nicely, getting through everything, making his defensive rolls, using his defensive abilities of the elemental potency tokens at the right time to reduce my shots, make defense rolls, keep things alive. We were talking about it. His Hellbringer Drake could probably have been deployed on the left because it was kind of given up and died really quickly, and that was free points and a wizard gone, like very quickly. I also talked about him like it didn't really need to be that far forward because what he really wants out of it is the wizard and like a thing the wizard rides on. And he could have sat back more because he used he kept the Tempered Steel Shaper back and he was kind of hiding it, kind of, you know, staying out of range of stuff and then running it away when it was being threatened was really good on my opponent's part. He was using the Fireforge and the Warlord Tempered Sorcerer really good by just like bowling my Merc Crossbows to death, but just blowing them up with magma. The moment he dropped his Thanes on the left, I knew I had lost that side because I needed to secure a side, and I was like, okay, well, I'm already doing work into Steelforge, but I need some oomph to finish it off. And then I gotta kill whatever else he has on the right. So I really gotta deploy both my Crimson Towers and my Order of Ashen Dawn on that side. And I can probably secure the right side, but now I gotta figure out how to get to the left. And once he started moving his Tempered Sorcerer through that hole, I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna chase him my Crimson Towers. Crimson Towers will kill these Hold Warriors with the Tempered Steel Shaper. Then I'm going to be on the left side. I'm going to be in his back end. There's a zone. Go sit on the zone to score to win. His Warlord Temper Sorcerer was running around dropping his magma shit. It's super annoying. It's hard to see and deal with. If you want an idea, its range is 18 inches. But also watch out from him putting Magma Heralds into terrain, because then he can just bounce it off any of that terrain. And he can just stay further back at that point. It's still really good. Dweg is still really strong. I struggled into this matchup for quite a while. Longbows, they did some work. having a hardened 1 cast on stuff, like especially the Steel Forge, was really annoying just because now all my AP is gone. Now it's defense 4. I don't really have anything higher than AP 1. And it's just, you know, I'm just rolling dice into it and hoping it dies at that point. I think with what I was doing was right. I gave up the Imperial Officer and the Imperial Ranger Corps way too easily. They could have stayed back more and then just been in the way more later on in the game. My longbow placement I think was pretty good. Maybe they could have stepped back a little bit on the left side there, but it was still overall fine. I wish I could have got to the wizards earlier, but every time I like either attacked them with like an archer unit, like I dropped a bunch of longbow shots into the warlord temper source, he would just spend his tokens to get rid of a bunch of them and then just roll a bunch of saves, and I was slowly bleeding him, but I didn't have enough shots after those 2 units of my crossbows died to really put some oomph into it. And on the right side, the Temple Steel Shaper, he just backed up out of range, and that's the safest place you can be, is not in range at all for your opponent to even make the shots. And I was kind of like, well, do I move the longbows up, but then I'm not taking aim, so I'm 2, but then I need arcing fire to see over these more crossbows. Like, it's kind of like, what do I do? So it's kind of tough. Maybe I could have been more aggressive with the left side not the left side Merc Crossbows. On the right, the Merc Crossbows in front of the right side longbows, and just kind of moved up more and gunned for the Steel Shaper. Just put shots into him and just ignore everything else. Like, that's his whole job, just to try and slowly kill that thing over the course of the game. But Steel Forge with 5 stands really need to be dealt with. And you saw kind of what I was doing, like just pouring shots into it, bringing up the Crimson Towers, throwing Mounted Squires at them. Mounted Squires, there was a turn where I chose longbows first. I probably should have chose Mounted Squires first, because I was hoping the longbows would do a bunch of damage to the Fire Forge, and my opponent just used the potency tokens and got rid of a bunch, and it was like, oh, great. So Dweg is still tough, they're still strong, they still have a lot of good things going for them. I still like them, but they are beatable, and you feel like you have an out. There's something you can still do, and I really like that about new Dweg, while before I felt like I did not have an out. As for the list I played, I liked it. It was fun. 2x5 longbows is kind of funny. Like, people are like, oh my god. The problem is like, I would like to be able to see to shoot stuff. Because Arcing Fire works really well in the marksman clones from Spire. It's just because they have 5 barrage base. Or is it 6? Oh, I have my phone here. I can. Tell me what your barrage stat is. Brass faction. I'm doing it live. Well, I'm doing it in a recording live. Marksman clones. Yeah, they're barrage 5. So they have 2 more shots than the longbows. So Arcing Fire isn't as bad of a thing to deal with by giving up that +1 volley, just because you're rolling more dice to get more shots. While Arcing Fire on longbows is kind of like, I'm only have 3 shots per stand. I need to make sure that each of these shots count because they're so low. So yeah, thanks for watching the battle report. I did have fun playing this game. Like, we both had a blast. To close out, BonkTable has a podcast. BonkTable has a Discord. BonkTable does lore readings. We also have a YouTube channel. You're on it if you're watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed, and you can find all those things in the description below. So have a good one. Bye.